Everybody, welcome to the MenoLounge. I'm Julie Gordon-White, CEO of MenoWell, high fiber and protein bars made just for us in menopause. And I am always excited on Tuesdays, but super excited because Dr. Lisa Brent, hi there, who I have known for a while, but we haven't had a chance to sit down and have a chat. So I'm really excited to share her with you because her specialty is kind of how I navigated through menopause for most of the time here. So I'm really excited to share. Let me see if I can grab her. All right, Dr. Lisa Brent is going to be joining us from BeWELL, which of course I love that, just like MenoWell. Here we go. You might want to check our website starting on Friday because it's chocolate lover time. There might be something fun there for you. All right. Make sure you post your questions. Dr. Lisa Brent is a neuropathic doctor. She has got so much experience, such an incredible perspective, and I want you to drop your questions down below so we can have some questions for her when she lands here. You know, I always tell you this is the fun part about having doctors. Sometimes they get stuck doctoring. All right, let's see. Oh, I see you here. Okay. All right, Dr. Lisa, I'm going to send you another invite. Here we go. Fingers crossed. Hey, have you guys been to any M factor screenings? Post down below. I'm going to Seattle soon. Here we go. That's where I'm off to tomorrow. Spin everywhere. I hope to see you at one of them. Okay, Dr. Lisa, it says you're unable to join, so let's just keep trying this fun thing. Here we go. Come on, Instagram gods, be with us today. Let's see. I'm going to send you another invitation. Fingers crossed. Always fun. Oh, okay. I see you right here.
Am I there?
You're here. I'm here. Let me move back away from the camera.
Okay, here. Oh, this is a good example. Like you can be good at one thing and not good at so many others. And
that's okay. We're always learning. We're always learning something, right? That's the joy of midlife, continued learning. So can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me and see me? Am I supposed to do anything else?
You're doing great. Okay. This is where I tell you, the doctor, just breathe. You're okay. It's fine.
You're in charge. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Lisa Brent, I'm so glad you're here. I'm looking at all of you. I got my notes here. Wow, I know you went to Berkeley. That's where we are. Well, you went to Berkeley. You are a member of the California Naturopathic Doctors Association, Endocrinology Association of Naturopathic Physicians, Naturopathic Academy of Environmental Science, Institute of Functional Medicine, and you've had advanced training in holistic gynecology and bioidentical hormones from the world's leading researchers and practitioners. Wow, all the things.
Yeah, that sounds nice when it's all listed like that. Yeah.
So good, so good. I'm so glad to have you because we do get to talk to a lot of doctors that have, are traditional Western medicine. But for me, I went through my menopause journey with no hormone therapy until I was 59. So your integrative approach, your philosophy is near and dear to my heart. So before we jump into like the more serious questions, I want to ask you a fun question. And that would be, if we looked at our symptoms during perimenopause, especially, what do you think if they could talk, they would be telling us?
That's a really good fundamental question. I think deep down, what they'd be telling us is we are doing a whole lot more than we really have the capacity for. And a lot of that feeling that a lot of us have, especially like late 40s, where we're like kind of irritated by everything and just feel like a lot less tolerance and overwhelmed easily, is because there is a real deep biological desire to sort of retreat and go inward. And yet most of us have set up our lives as, to have a lot on our plate during that time. So it's like there's a little bit of mismatch with our biology and the level at which we are out in the world. So I think that would be the message, is really slow down, be nice, like I'm doing the best I can. And there's a lot happening inside.
Yeah, I love that. The body always knows, it's always talking to us, but we rarely stop long enough to get quiet and listen.
Yeah, we're not really encouraged to do that, right? We're really encouraged to override, just keep on going. I mean, in some ways, that's our gift. I think as
Mm-hmm.
women, as we're very resilient, we can adapt to difficulty and we can carry on.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that also that causes us to kind of, override our instincts and to not really listen when it would be better if we could.
Right. When it's speaking loud and clearly, I used to tell my coaching clients, a strength overused becomes a weakness.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
when because we are so resilient and our recovery time is less, we know that even, from lifting weights, things like that, we don't need the same amount of time to rest, going from move to move as men do. But we go too far, and then that's when everything we experience just amplifies.
Yeah.
So tell me, why did you decide to go a naturopathic, integrative approach, yoga, all of the things that you incorporate? And I'm so sad. I keep missing your incredible events that you put on. Somehow I'm always traveling when they're happening. We have bars there, but I want to be there.
Yeah, your bars are always there. Yes. And Barb is there. And we'll keep on doing it. So you'll make
Barb
it.
Sobel, our clinical nutritionist, who everyone knows, she's always holding it down for MenoWell at your events. So,
Yeah.
But tell me, so why did you decide to take this path versus staying on a Western medicine path?
Yeah. I mean, I was called in that direction. There are a lot of doctors and nurses in my family. And so I felt, some draw into medicine in some way. I just had this, kind of through my own process in my 20s as I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. I was kind of going through my own health awakening and learning more about, kind of some ways that I didn't feel great and what was influencing that, and connections I'd never really made, even really basic things about, exercise and water. And, I was at Berkeley and I was smoking and drinking black coffee in the morning, like I kind of just didn't grow up necessarily with that connection, like how we take care of ourselves or how we eat really influences how we feel. But that was starting to come just through people I was meeting and experiences I was having and living in the Bay Area. And so once I found out there was such a thing as naturopathic medicine, which I didn't even know about until later in my 20s, I was on a path I thought, well, I'll just become a medical doctor and then practice in a different way. But then I found out there was naturopathic medical training that I could practice as a physician and but integrate sort of what was feeling important to me personally. It was just the perfect fit. I feel really lucky that I came across that. Fate intervened. So
Yeah, I love that. Right. So you just made me think, I know that part of your training is around yoga. How does yoga help? I know we're in sort of a Pilates, lift heavy weights, Pilates, I don't know what, trend.
Like work hard. Yeah.
Right. Which I'm not against. I love lifting. I'm not a Pilates person, but I'm excited to learn more about it. But I feel like we've forgotten about yoga. What do you think?
Yeah. Yoga was not so much a part of my medical school training, but I had kind of discovered it by fate, or by luck, early in my 20s. And it just really resonated for me because it's like you can do a lot of things at once, right? You are exercising, you're stretching, but you're also sort of meditating and you're working really with yourself. Even if you're being taught or guided, it's really an individual practice that I just find it just really, for me, resonates because you're sort of forced into just touching into your own limits. It's very personal. It doesn't really matter what the person next to you can do. It's about where you find yourself on that day. And so that's kind of a great blueprint
Mm-hmm.
for live. And I think you make a good point too. As we age, we do need to do strength training. We need to stretch. We need to do some cardio. We need to stay strong. We need to find the way to do that we also enjoy, and that where we don't hurt ourselves. We don't feel like we're forcing ourselves to do yet another thing that we don't really want to, but have to. So I think if people find what they like, whether, whatever that is, then make the most of it. So
yeah, that's a big part of it, finding what you like and how you like the thing. I had to figure out how I like to lift weights. I don't really like to go to the gym, so I built a little gym and my guest room, half my guest room, with all the dumbbells and weights, and I just keep adding them as I master one and go to the other. But it took me a long time to figure out how that worked for me. So I think I love that advice of trying different things and finding your way. It's kind of like food. Barb and I always talk about that, right? We want to make the best choices that we can, but you don't always like stuff. Like, what if you don't like cottage cheese? I personally love cottage cheese, but what if you don't like it? How do you find your way to get to what you need to on protein, let's say?
Yeah, exactly.
Finding your own path. So if a woman came to you, like all the women do who come to your practice, BeWELL, right? Which I love. And how would she have a different experience than if she went to a Western, doctor about talking about perimenopause? She comes to you and she says, I'm having hot flashes and I can't sleep. What do I do? What do you think? How is it different working with you than a traditional Western doctor?
Well, one aspect of how we practice is we are, our whole training is around looking at the whole person, right? So someone may be coming in with what sounds like predominantly hormonal issues, but we are also going to look at her through all systems. What is her lifestyle? What's her stress level? How's her digestion? What's her diet like? How is she sleeping? Are there musculoskeletal issues? We really try to incorporate all systems in how we evaluate somebody. And then we also really are able to take the time to listen. So whatever her, is really in the way at that time of her feeling well, we're really going to, also start there. And we're lucky enough to be able to take time with patients. We're outside of managed care, at least in California. So, on one side, that means that not everybody can come to us, which we don't love, out of pocket. On the other hand, we are free to really take time with our patients and get to know kind of what are, what their goals are, what's in the way of that. And then we, start evaluating. If labs are, going to be helpful, then we'll arrange to do that. If there's, some things we need to do right away to help her feel better, we'll start there. And then, our goal is to really, address what's happening, in the acute phase while we're looking at the underlying pieces, and essentially help a woman feel her best in any, knowing that that's going to change, especially in the menopause transition. But, there's no reason that she should have to tough it out. And so we're there to try to help.
We don't need to suffer. We need to figure it out, but we don't need to suffer.
We've all proven that we can, and there's really nothing to be gained. We all have plenty to do in the world, and we want our bodies to be coming along with us, right? We want to, take care of our bodies so that we can do the other stuff that we're here for.
That's right. I always say it's like, let's get that off the table, but a lot of times what's happening in our bodies in midlife lead us to who we are supposed to be, who we have left in us, what we're called to do that maybe we didn't do before because we were growing families or doing other things. So I do love the gift of being called back to my body after I've pretty much ignored it, for so many years. There's no time for that. So there is a gift in it, but it also has to be managed. So
yeah, both are true. And right. And how can we do that in a loving, compassionate way? Like to make friends with our bodies. It is aging and things are going to start not working as well. It's like a car that was built in the year you were born, right? You're going to, take special care of it and use whatever, parts and oil and gas and, that have to really respect our bodies and I think try to get on the same side as
not fighting what's happening,
yes.
Embracing it and optimizing it or supporting it. Yeah. That's what I love about your approach. It makes me think like, okay, if I went to your office, you're going to pull out the tree of life and we're going to go over all the things.
Maybe. Yeah.
Let's talk about, we'll touch on hormone therapy and get your thoughts on that. And I also want to talk about bone health and talk about, but before that, you mentioned stress. And I think we don't talk about stress enough because, we spend a lot of time talking about gut health, and stress really impacts gut health and vice versa. And can you just touch on that and about the impact of stress and how you approach women managing through stressful times?
Yeah, no, it's so important. And I think we throw that term around like, I'm under a lot of stress or that's stressful and almost in a way that it minimizes it or it just becomes so common. Like
normalized, yeah.
Yeah. But I think what we need to sort of really pause and attend to is what does that mean when we're in a high state of stress or chronic stress? It means that our sympathetic nervous systems are sort of in the on position, that we're making a lot of cortisol primarily, right? Our kind of fight or flight hormone. And that, that serves a purpose in acute stress states, right? To help us.
There's times where stress is good, right? It saved your life, but
it saved your life.
Not always on.
We're designed sort of re-regulate back down, but the way that a lot of us are living or kind of just the state of the world and perhaps our individual lives, we end up being kind of in that cortisol on position for continued periods of time. What happens then is that cortisol does not promote good digestion or breaking down of nutrients to absorb them. It suppresses our immune system. It causes a breakdown of tissues, or it gets in the way of tissue repair. It interferes with good quality sleep and restorative sleep, and so on, so that body systems start to really pay the price. And maybe not right away, but eventually that does catch up with us. So we can't skip over that, right? Because you could work on the digestion, right? You can take all the right herbs or probiotics, but if you're not sitting down to eat your food or chew, or if you're, in a constant sort of activated state, it's not really going to make that much difference. We need to work there first to help to regulate the nervous system so that whatever else we do can get in and do what it's supposed to do.
That's interesting. So that cortisol and that heightened sense of, what is it? Just like an overstimulation or
kind of
inflammation.
Fight or activation kind of, that again can be helpful in an acute response, but, is not appropriate in the rest and restore state, right? Which is where we should be when we're eating our food and getting ready to rest at night or.
Oh, interesting. So you can be stressed during the day to get your stuff done, but when it comes for dinner and bedtime, you need to bring it down. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I think it's okay. And we are, designed to go in and out of that, right? Like somebody cuts you off in traffic, you respond very quickly, your reflexes kick in. But then, over the next few minutes, we should breathe it down, breathe and settle back down again and sort of recover into a more parasympathetic state. But if you're in traffic for 2 hours trying to get to your job that you're late for, you're probably going to be activated a lot of that time. And
So what's a good way for women, perimenopausal to post? Can't forget about us over here in the posting category. Forever, right? As Dr. Sharon Malone says, we are postmenopausal forever. So what can we do in the moment? What can we do? Because, I meditate in the morning. I feel like I need to meditate at night. That's really, really probably need to bring it down or double down on that. But in the moment during the day when things kind of get out of control or, very amplified, what is maybe a good thing that women can do just to bring their bodies down a little bit?
I think, people have their own different tricks for that, but, I think some of the very fundamental ones we hear a lot, and that's because they work, right? We stop and take a breath, like take 30 seconds, to just come back to the moment, even after something that was jarring, like, okay, I'm okay. We're back in this moment right now. I'm not in danger. I have a minute before my next client, before the next thing. I can just sit in my car and take some breaths, or I put on some calming music for a few minutes, or I can have a cup of tea. I think whatever it is that helps us come back to the present is so invaluable, because we're always, sort of on to the next thing in our lives. And that keeps us from kind of being in our bodies and sort of noticing. I think, it can be a meditation practice, right? That sets a good framework for being able to kind of access that state maybe throughout the day. But whatever it is somebody can do, like getting up 5 minutes, before their kids do, so that they can have their coffee in peace. Or I used to do the thing where I would sit in my driveway for an extra few minutes before, can that transition from work into like home and 3 kids.
What's for dinner? Yeah.
Yeah. Or just, even just park down the street for a minute or whatever it is, come back to ourselves.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that you mentioned breathing, breath. It's something we always have, thank goodness. And it's free. It's always available. We just have to remember to do it. I find myself holding my breath. Even when I was a little girl, my mom would say, "You're holding your breath," So, but just remembering to breathe. It's just a great, beautiful centering thing we can do anytime. We just have to remember.
I know. I don't know why it's so hard.
I know. It's right there. Because it's too easy. That's why we like the hard thing. Let's talk about hormone therapy. Do doctors, naturopathic doctors, what do they think about hormone therapy? Are they yay, nay? What's your take on it?
Yeah, most of us are yay, and we have been this whole time. The big Women's Health Initiative study came out in maybe 2001, right? 2002, where a lot of women were then taken off of hormone therapy during that time. Right. In our profession, it wasn't too long after that a lot of the flaws in that study, became more clear, and we started to kind of pay attention to that. And so we've been prescribing, I remember, I graduated in 2000, and even then we were prescribing compounded bioidentical hormone therapy where appropriate. And we've always done it. I've done that now for 25, 26 years. We are thoughtful, like with anything, is this appropriate? What are we, what are the screenings, all of the things, again, an important part of how we approach a patient is as an individual. So you'll never, it's not just like, oh, you're 50, here's your hormone prescription, right? What's your family history? What's your own personal health history? What are your goals? What are your concerns? What resonates with you? What does your blood work show us if that's appropriate? And then what's the right recipe or the right prescription for you? But if hormone therapy, after all of that, does seem to be a good piece of the treatment approach, then yeah, then I'm a yes. We're a yes.
Okay. Thank you. Good.
Yeah,
Me too. Yeah.
good, good.
Right. Because I always say nutrition is our biggest lever, because we've got to do all of the things to keep the car built a long time ago running smoothly, not just paint it, right? Not just wash it on the
Yeah.
outside. We have to do all the inside things too. So I
Yes,
love that. That's a beautiful approach that you have, like all around, all the things that we need to consider, not just
exactly.
one tool in the
All,
toolbox, all the tools.
exactly.
hmm Really good. Okay, let's talk about bones because that's a big issue. Bone density, right?
Bone density, yeah. It's funny because in some ways it's not as sexy, right? It's not
It's
like
not sexy.
our
It's like
skin
putting
or
a roof on your house or something. You spend a lot of money, you can't see it, and
yeah,
then until like you don't get insured or somebody falls through, like then you're like, ah, I should have done that,
not
So
not your new hot tub or your
right.
yeah, I know. But you're right. So important and so fundamental, right? That's like what's keeping us all, upright and active is, yeah, our skeleton. So bone density is an important, you know, um, goal of helping a woman, with the support through the menopause transition and beyond. We always say kind of there's three areas that we want to invest in at midlife: bone health, heart health, and brain health, right? Kind of the three big ones that get us down the line as women: cardiovascular disease, dementia, and osteoporosis. And at the time of the menopause transition is a really great time, though it's never too late, but it's a great time to invest in those systems so that the changes that happen to us don't have a big impact on those possible disease processes down the line. So yeah, bone, I mean, knowing your bone density is really valuable. And a lot of women, they want to get a DEXA scan. Sometimes they can't get insurance won't cover, or in certain systems like Kaiser, they won't even let you have one until you're 65, which is really sort of a little late. I will say, I'll put a little plug in. Our practice just purchased a REMS Echo Light Bone Density ultrasound machine, which we're very excited about. I don't really get excited over equipment, but this one I am excited about because it allows us to calculate your DEXA score, your bone density, but also your bone quality. So it's an ultrasound. Actually can measure bone matrix, which tells us it's a more comprehensive evaluation of your fracture risk. And because it's not radiation, we can do that. We can repeat it regularly and we can start early. So it's great to know what a woman's bone density is in her 40s so that we know what we're dealing with going into the time of estrogen decline. And we can, kind of up our game as needed.
Earlier than later.
Yeah.
And how often should a woman have a scan like this?
It depends on what her initial one shows. If things are really pretty good, she's got good bone quality, really good bone density, no osteopenia, then, maybe once a year as she moves through her 40s into the 50s, so we can track any changes. If there is some osteopenia, like early bone loss or even osteoporosis, then we're going to initiate or change up what she's doing with exercise and nutrition, maybe hormone therapy and minerals, that kind of thing. Then we might want to repeat in 3 to 6 months just to make sure things are moving in the right direction so that we can intervene, as soon as possible. So that's the nice thing about being able to do that on our own schedule.
Really good, especially if you have that equipment available to you. So, hi, Lynn. Glad you're here. She said, hello, Queens. I was just browsing and saw this, so I stopped in. Glad you did. Good stuff here for you, Lynn. Quickly, let's just touch on, it is Heart Health Month, one of the topics for the month. What do you want to tell us about an approach to making sure we know that heart disease is the #1 killer of women. We cannot say that more often. It does not get enough attention. And so what would you like to say about it? I want to make sure you have time to put your stake in the ground on that.
Thank you. Yes, I do think it's really important. Again, it's a little bit quiet, right? It's not something you necessarily know that, perhaps plaque is forming in your arteries or that something's happening. So we do want to be, again, early in our tracking, like what are baseline labs, fasting labs, and looking not just at cholesterol, HDL, LDL, but inflammation markers and small dense particles, and really understanding where a woman is starting out so that we can be on top of changes. I do think it's also important for women not to get freaked out. Like often they'll get maybe their first fasting labs, maybe they're at 48 or 50 or something, and their cholesterol looks high and they've got maybe high LDLs or high triglycerides. And, that might be very scary to see that information. And she might assume that she's sort of barreling towards heart disease. And that's not always the case. So I think both are true. We want to be on top of it and vigilant and use, good lab testing. But we also, want to remind women that what's on a lab, report doesn't necessarily mean that's what's happening in your arteries. So don't necessarily jump to medication if that's not feeling appropriate to you or you don't feel ready for that. In between, there can be calcium score or other evaluations done at a cardiologist. There's even those lifeline screenings that move around. You can have like an ultrasound done of your carotid arteries that tell us a little bit more about what's going on under the hood. And then knowing other things, your family history, if every woman in your family had a stroke or a heart attack at 60, we want to be really on top of, what's your true risk and what's happening. And then
really important.
Yeah.
So ask for tests.
Ask for fasting labs, and ideally beyond just the typical lipid panel, because that doesn't always reflect, that's what I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes you can have high cholesterol and maybe some high LDL, but zero actual evidence of heart disease. So it doesn't mean like right away you need to go on a statin drug, especially if that's, you're really trying to avoid that and you want some time to do some other things with your diet and, herbal supplements and hormone therapy and exercise. Then, you can ask to go to a cardiologist and have a workup, a stress test, a calcium score, that kind of thing, to see, is there actually anything happening yet? Or do we have some time? And then decide from there. So I think it's kind of the same thing kind of with bone density. Like there's what we assume is happening, but then what's truly happening, and then what's right for you.
All the more reason to add a doctor or find a doctor or switch to a doctor like you, that you can spend time to really be thoughtful about these things, because most are just passed through the system. I had a calcium score. D. Carter had a calcium score too, because I started hormone therapy at 59. So that was one of the things I needed to be aware of, right? Because when the tank has been dry for so long and then all of a sudden you put in some oil, things get loose.
Don't want to loosen any gunk. Yes.
Right. That's a silly way. That's a very pedantic way to say. We don't want any plaque, right, to soften and get loose. Right. So fortunately, I had a really, this is 0, but my doctor said right away, if you don't have a score of 0, are you ready for a statin? You're good. You have to take a statin. I'm like, I do? She's like, yes. Otherwise, we don't need to do the test. I'm like, okay. So it's really interesting. This is why I want to do this show and have the MenoLounge and have doctors like you on, because we need to understand all of our options. I love my doctor, but she doesn't, spend all her day in menopause talking about menopause related things. So we need a success team, somebody like you.
team. It's really nice if a woman can have exactly like, because everybody sort of has their area of expertise and is going to have their lens. And ultimately, the woman is in the center, right? You as the patient, you can consult with your all the people on your team who kind of know what they know. And then, ultimately, yeah, you get to decide what resonates for me, what really aligns with my goals, with how I live my life, with what I know and what I've educated myself on. And then what's working, right? And, then you get to see what the results are, both in how you feel and then how different labs or that kind of thing are changing in the right direction.
Yeah. And I love that, what's working and adjusting, right? Because you might not land on it the first time, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work for you. It's just figuring out what is specific to your body, because we're all different. Just because we all go through, and we are going to go through it, hopefully that's the goal, to go through a menopause transition, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the same thing for everybody. So
Exactly. And yeah, it's unfortunate. I think, there's so many fantastic doctors who just don't get to have the time with their patients. They would probably really like it. That's a whole other show, right? On how
we're going to have to work on that piece separately.
Yeah.
Dee said that her doctor said she had a calcium score, and then her doctor recommended supplements. So what are your views on supplements? Some doctors are like, I don't know anything about supplements. And others are like, yes, supplements. This is what we can do. Nice. What do you think?
There definitely are some things out there that can be helpful for if there is some, perhaps they've identified some mild plaquing in the arteries. There are some compounds that have really shown great promise in studies to help to soften or dissolve those. So if there's something that she's been advised to take and her doctor understands how it works, and then they have a plan for evaluating success, then great. I think statins, most people want to avoid them if they can. Certainly if it's appropriate and it's going to prevent, heart disease for a woman, then, we want to look at anything that's on the menu. But a lot of times they are sort of a go-to, and they aren't necessarily what's appropriate in her situation. So if we can buy some time and try some other things, then great.
I love it. Ask questions. We don't have to take the first response every time, right?
Exactly. Usually there is time, to do your research.
That's a good nuance. If we have time, then maybe we can explore a little bit. Well, I know you have to get back to doctoring, but how about any tips you might have that you might want to share for women about how to navigate their symptoms through your integrative naturopathic lens to help us?
Well, I think number one, and we said at the beginning, there is no need to suffer. There's not, and that it's okay to ask for help. And it's the first sign of a woman not feeling herself, right? Whatever that is. I'm a little more irritable. I'm not sleeping as well. Everybody's on my nerves. My libido is, changing, or sex is uncomfortable. Whatever it is, even if it's small, that's enough to reach out and, talk to your doctor about it. If there's someone else, that you're working with, an acupuncturist or a naturopathic doctor, who's ever on your team or on your friend's team, and you want to ask, go see them, then I think it's important for us to intervene or support women at the beginning of even the small changes, so that it doesn't have to be terrible. And if that didn't happen for some reason, it's also never too late, right? Like, I have wonderful patients who've come to me for the first time, in their late 70s. And, what can we do to help you feel your best at any stage? That's the goal.
I love that. Yeah, really, really good. We can start small. You don't have to wait until you feel horrible that you're on your knees. We don't need to do that. Let's ask for help. Let's raise our hands sooner. And then even if we've done that or didn't do that, it's never too late to see what you might consider to make your life better. Yeah?
Yeah.
Super good. I love it. Well, I hope I get to see you in person. We see each other in passing
I
at
know.
things.
Yeah, we have some, yeah, our worlds are overlapping, but
Overlapping.
that's
We should just have lunch because we actually don't live very far away.
okay. Yeah, we can do that.
We
Yeah.
could do that. We could do that. Okay, for people who can't have lunch with you, Dr. Lisa Brent, how can they follow you and learn more about your practice?
Our practice is called BeWELL Natural Medicine, and our website is bewellnaturalmedicine.net. We're on Instagram, and I try to keep up with it. I'm, again, as you saw, not super tech savvy, but we keep events and that kind of thing we'll put on our Instagram, BeWELL Natural Medicine. And yeah, our website has some resources. We have other doctors in the practice and other things we do, and a newsletter so people can sign up there. And
Yes. At the minimum, go sign up for your newsletter. I did
yeah.
because I like to know all the things. So
Thank you.
well, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for considering another approach to how women can navigate, because like we talked about, everyone has their own journey. So every perspective, every expert is so valuable, so valuable. So
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you for doing what you do. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
It's our calling, right?
Yes.
We have to help our sisters ourselves. It starts there.
And we help ourselves in the process for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you IRL soon. Yeah.
Okay.
In real life. Okay, everybody. Thanks for being here. MenoWell. And don't forget to check the website on Friday for something yummy for our chocolate lovers for Valentine's Day.
Nice
stuff. Thank you, Dr. Lisa. See you, everybody. Be well. Bye-bye.